Hello, my name is André Forget, and I am the author of In the City of Pigs. I suppose I'd say that the novel is important because it deals with development and with the relationship between art and money. Development is very exciting. The way that Toronto has exploded, the dynamism that has come with that is very moving, I think. It means there's more money coming in. It means there's more people coming in. Those people are bringing ideas and perspectives that are new. That's very exciting to be around. But it also puts pressures on the city, and those pressures are felt disproportionately by people who don't own their homes, who are renting, who are working kind of fixed wage jobs. And that tension between the excitement that comes with development and also the anxiety and the precarity that comes with development was something that I was experiencing myself and that many of my friends were experiencing. When you're an artist, you need time, which means that you need money. And where that money comes from is kind of an interesting question. If you're creating art that is not directly marketable, I was interested in kind of looking at that question through the eyes of a variety of characters who are trying to exist in that space of making art, while also negotiating the fact that the money's got to come from somewhere. The protagonist of this novel is a young man named Alexander Okazov. He's a failed classical pianist who's been drifting for a while, and he's been living a kind of bohemian life in Montreal, and one day he decides to sell out and move to Toronto and make a ton of money. That's his big idea. And he moves to Toronto and discovers that selling out is considerably more difficult than he had originally thought. And he gets pulled back into the world of classical music, this time as a journalist working for a small publication. So the novel is told in four movements, four sections, each of which follows him kind of trying to get to the bottom of a story. And the overall story of the book is about really how he grows up, I suppose. How telling these stories forces him to confront some of his own issues and some of his own shortcomings. First novels are special for the people who write them because they're the first novel. It's a landmark in the life of any artist when you kind of have your first thing go out into the world. There's a lot of experiment, I think, for a lot of people, and their first novel is the time of experimentation and of learning. If I put on my literary critic hat for a second, I think first novels for readers are interesting because it's a new person coming onto the stage with their first statement. There's always something that's special. The advice that's been most helpful to me is simply to get out of your own way. The first draft doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be done. And I wasted a lot of time just fiddling about with little things that I ended up cutting in the final draft. So I think working towards getting a finished first draft of the manuscript and then diving into it and smoothing things over and fixing things up is advice that I wish I'd taken when it was given to me. But there's really no right way to do these things, I think, is the advice that most novelists, if they're being honest, would give. It's about finding your own process. Well, there's two books I'm reading right now. One of them is Paula Ferrante's collection of short stories, Her Body Among Animals. Paula is a writer who I have a huge amount of admiration for. She's a poet as well, and that really comes through in the short stories she writes. They're just very, very dense, very vivid, and she just has these incredible ideas for stories, and she always comes at things from kind of an odd angle. The other thing I'm reading, I just picked up, I was in Istanbul recently, and I found this book in a bookshop, and it's a translation into English of a poem that was written to honor Mehmet the Conqueror, who's the Ottoman Sultan who captured Constantinople in 1453. So it was missing or not really known about for hundreds of years, and it's finally appeared in an English translation and also a Turkish translation. And I'm finding it very interesting because it is really a cultural artifact that reminds us of how entwined what we call or what we think of as being the Islamic world and the so-called kind of Western world. Just how entwined those cultures are and how much kind of back and forth there has been over the centuries of individual people moving back and forth between the two poles, and also kind of cultural ideas going back and forth.